Yeah, obviously disappointing day on Saturday there. It was a tough start to the game. They took the opening kickoff, 11 plays, went down and scored. Had a good first drive going on our end. Once we crossed midfield, their ball was a little bit high to Christian, hit off his fingertips. Their guy made a great play. We got ourselves down 2 scores. And in my opinion, after that, I could kind of feel it on the field. I kind of said that post-game in the press conference, I just feel like guys started pressing and guys started trying to play outside of what their job is. And when you play the game with that type of mindset, or you play the game with that type of mentality, it's tough. Then things start to slide, or things start to compound, and that's really what happened to us. And when you're in practice, you don't really have adversity hit you in the face. When you're in practice, if you don't execute your job, or the play, you don't execute it, then you reload it, you line it up, you go again. When you're in a game, that's not the case. So you got to stay in that mindset of playing one play at a time for 4 quarters, as hard as it may be, because once things start to slide or somebody else has got momentum, your natural instincts are you try to do too much. And when that happens, then something else happens where you give up a big play, or you don't convert something. So for us, it's all about getting back here this week. We got to get our confidence back where it needs to be. We're coming back into MAC play. There's 6 teams in our conference out of 12 that are really basically in the same boat. So it's back to MAC play here. We're coming back home after being on the road for 3 weeks. We're excited about that. We only got 5 home games this year, so it's nice to come back home here into our stadium in front of our fans, and obviously for family weekend.
You said that there's about half the teams in the MAC are in the same boat as you. I know that after the James Madison game, you said there's not really a ton of positives to take away, but is that something that you look at as a positive?
Well, we're done with, listen, James Madison's a good football team. If you were there the other day, the atmosphere, I don't know if he gets much better than that for a group of 5 program, sold out stadium there with over 25,000 people. Really awesome. They got a lot of momentum going with their program. And obviously, if you don't go in there and you don't execute at a high level and you don't take care of business, obviously the outcome that we got the other day is because of that. So for us, like it or not, obviously it felt like we had a strong team meeting on Sunday in here, just talking to the guys. When you fall off a horse, you got to get back up and get back on that thing. But we're turning the page to MAC play now. Obviously it's Western Michigan. They're playing their first MAC game. This will be our second. So we got to turn all of our attention and focus to that and make sure we get ourselves where we need to be confidence-wise before the end of the week here, and we get ready for Saturday.
Do you look at the fact that you guys have played a MAC game and Western hasn't as an advantage?
I think certainly you could say it's an advantage. Obviously, we lost a tough one on the road against Central Michigan, but our guys, we got several guys in here that have been around. They understand what MAC plays like. They understand what this conference is all about. It's a great conference, a lot of great teams. From top to bottom. Sometimes the non-conference schedule is the non-conference schedule. You draw some tough opponents that Power 5, whatever it may be, but man, you gotta move on from that, and I really feel strongly that our guys will.
You talked about the team meeting yesterday, and I know that a lot of times you don't like to talk about the specifics, but I am curious, what was the atmosphere like in the team meeting?
Certainly everybody's disappointed, and you would want them to be. I'd be upset if they weren't disappointed about the outcome the other day, but at the same time, there's a lot of football left to be played. We played 4 games. We've been on the road for 3 of those. We're coming back home again. There's so much left to play for. Some of our older players that have been around, they know what the MAC's like. They know that it's a crazy conference. It's wide open. So I think more than anything else, making sure our guys know that when you do your job, and part of my job this week will be focused on making sure I'm showing us, to the entire team, make sure I'm showing us execute some of the calls in games that have been, some of the same calls where perhaps we didn't execute as well as we needed to, but showing those in a team meeting so everybody in here can see, man, when 11 guys are doing their job and this is what it looks like, we're capable of getting that done. There's nothing magical that needs to happen, but part of my job this week will be focused on making sure our confidence over the next 2 work days is certainly where it needs to be.
You were just talking about preparation and even after Saturday's game, like you talked about how much preparation this team puts in, all the hours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, like specifically, like, what does a day look like when it's a work day? Like,
Well, I'll be
time
honest.
do you get up?
Yeah, like our guys are in here for breakfast early in the morning. We start the team meeting here at 7 a.m. Tomorrow morning, and I credit our support staff, our strength and conditioning staff, our support staff. They're up here getting breakfast set up for our guys first thing in the morning. And obviously, we give them instant oatmeal, string cheese, fruit cups, Go-Gurts, Eggo waffles. But to have those guys get up here an hour before breakfast starts, so they're here 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting all that set up for our guys before they come in here to make sure that we can do the best we can to get something in their stomach before we get the work day started, before we get the practice started. So nobody sees that, and it's obviously you get in here early in the morning and you're grinding. So I'm appreciative of the unselfishness of our staff and being willing to do whatever it takes just to help our guys get ready. And then obviously we get the players in there. You want to make sure we get weight on them each and every day. You want to make sure they're maintaining their weight, or guys that need to put on weight, can they put on weight? And our training staff does a great job. The injury list has grown. The injury list has grown for a lot of teams, but making sure that they're doing a great job of getting our guys back the best they can. And obviously there's some injuries that are a little bit longer term than other ones, but just the investment, because there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm just proud of just the unselfishness every morning to get up here, no questions asked, and make sure we do the best we can for our guys.
And then on the topic of injuries, is there any, of the guys that missed Saturday's game, is there any significant updates, positive or negative, on any of those guys?
Well, hopeful, to have Ty Robinson back on the practice field starting tomorrow. So, that's a positive. Don't want to get ahead of myself there, but excited to get him back here on the practice field tomorrow. Off the top of my head, obviously, Jackson Corville was still, not on the trip with us to James Madison. So we'll see how that goes here. Maybe, Vaughn Pemberton was not on the trip with us. Joey Stemler was not on the trip with us. That would have been recent injuries. So, hopefully, when we get back to work here and get on the practice field, hopefully those guys can at least return in some way, shape, or form in a limited fashion, and kind of see how the work week goes.
Was Justin Bowick on that trip?
No, he wasn't. Yeah, we're still, don't anticipate Justin this week, but if something fortunate happens and we can get him back, but don't anticipate. And I think he'll return to doing some activity, perhaps on the side or in the weight room and some of those things, but don't anticipate having him this week.
Okay. And then on the defensive side of the ball, after watching film, what are some of the little things that stuck out to you against James Madison that need to be improved? Yeah,
I think, you talk about some tackling issues that we had. You talk about guys being just slightly out of position, or maybe, not doing their job quite the way they need to do their job. And, in saying that, there's not just one thing to say, hey, on this specific play. It really just goes back to that comment I made about making sure our guys know some of the same calls that were made in that game the other day. We've made them before, and when we do our job and 11 guys are bought into that, man, it's awesome. Look at it. Let me show you it. Let me show you what it looks like when all 11 guys are doing their job. Now, when adversity happens, though, you can't let that affect how you attack the next play, because that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, something's going to go, on the previous play, you can't change the outcome. So if something doesn't quite go our way, how quick can you forget about that? You got to have a short-term memory. You got to move on to the next play, and it really comes down to that. It's the littlest of things that are getting us. Somebody being slightly out of position, or somebody, obviously we had a potential tackle for loss, and we didn't get them to the ground. Those are things that you take pride on being a good tackling team, but also at the same time, when somebody's got them wrapped up, there's also another opportunity for 3 or 4 more guys to get there as well. So we make sure there's a lot of hats from our football team that are by the ball. So there's no question that we get them down. We talk about never assuming all the time. Never assume that somebody's got them on the ground. Just keep pursuing to the football until we get it done. So it's a little bitty things, but again, part of my job this week and focus is really going to be on making sure that confidence is where it needs to be, and showing everybody, all 115 guys are in this room, man, look at what it looks like when we execute at a high level.
I guess, how hard is it as a coach to have those 11 guys be doing their job all the time?
It is hard, especially in this sport, in football, and things change too throughout the course of the game. Somebody could be up they're playing the next snap. I have no idea. They tweaked their ankle or something happened on the play before. They're trying to fight through it. So is their speed the next play exactly the same as it was the play before? There's a lot of little things that go into it. But the goal at the end of the day, whether we get 60, 65, 70 plays on respective sides of the ball plus special teams, how many of those plays can we have 11 guys doing their job? Because if we can, then that's a winning formula. And it's just, again, one mistake. You can have 10 guys that are awesome and one guy not quite where it needs to be, and something big happens. And so it really comes down to that. And we can get that cleaned up. And I know we can get that cleaned up. But at the same time, part of it is making sure don't lose faith. Don't lose trust in your teammates. Don't stop believing in your teammates. Let me show you for sure what it looks like. And if we can all dial it back to that and make sure we do our job, it's a good result.
And I know you mentioned family weekend. What does it mean to you personally to be at the Ball State community kind of rally around football?
Yeah, I want us to have a great program here. Obviously, I know people have an opinion about me and where things stand. My job is to make sure I deliver the best product that I can, and I want to see Ball State be successful. I want to see Ball State football be successful. We need the community here for Ball State football to have a chance to be successful. And if we can put a good product and get the community excited about what we're doing and the stands can be full, that's a great atmosphere. Like, obviously, my vision is to have that type of atmosphere that they had at James Madison at our place. We got basically same size stadium. We talk about number of seats. Now, they had one side that was obviously abnormally huge, but to have that type of environment here, that's always been a goal and a vision of mine. So I'm not going to stop busting my tail in order to be able to try to get that done.
Just a little tidbit of what you said in there, I know people have their opinions of me.
Yeah.
So how do you go about kind of blocking that stuff out and just staying focused on your job?
Yeah, I told the team in here the other day, man, listen, I'm older. You guys are all younger. I've had my back against the wall before. That's not going to change how I attack my day. That's not going to change how I respond in my role as a head coach. My job is to make sure I'm consistent. I'm still holding myself accountable to do the same things I would do each week to prepare for a game. Same with the staff, same with these guys. So not for 1 second can anybody bring anything more than just their best. That's it. My job, I've had my back against the wall before, and I'm a fighter. I'm always going to be a fighter. So that's what I'm going to continue to bring and give to our guys. And all I can ask for those guys is the same thing in return, man. There's so much to play for. So much to play for. It's easy. You go through the first part of our season. A couple games have been really tough, but that's not going to define us. We can really turn that into a positive if we want to, because the story's not over yet. The story's not written. The season's not over. We're really just getting into the meat of it right now with MAC play. So we got to respond. We got to come back in here and our intentions and our work ethic. And it was nice to hear Coach Winger sent me a text first thing this morning. It's a volunteer day, but we had the most guys that we've had at the pool on a volunteer day. And so to me, that tells me that yesterday and today, guys are bought into, especially the bumps and bruises. These 2 days you use Sunday and Monday for recovery. And so to have the most guys that we've had at the pool, that's a positive thing.
I'm curious too, the leader of the defense and Keontae, and really the leader of the offense and Caden, both kind of pledged their support for you and for the team after Saturday's game. Does that make having your back against the wall any easier?
Listen, I told them after the game, the first thing I said when I got into the locker room, to make sure they knew I loved them. I told them I loved them. That was the first thing I said in the locker room before I talked about the game at all. When I got in here yesterday, because some of the guys that were in the meeting yesterday, they weren't on the trip. So the first thing I said yesterday when I came in here is I love them. I'm going to pour my guts out for those guys no matter what. And so it's nice to hear that, but I'm not looking for anybody to say, hey, Coach, I'm going to give everything I got. And all I've ever been is try to be true to these guys, try to make sure that, you can count on me to bring the same thing every day, to hold you guys accountable and do the best I can to put us in a position to win. So I love those guys. They put too much pressure on themselves. They can only do their part. So sometimes they want to take all the heat for somebody else. Let me take the heat. That's my job, to fall on the sword. If things aren't going well, that's my job. Those guys put too much pressure on themselves. Just go be the best version of your respective selves, and that's really good football when those guys do that. It's championship football. It's the best in this conference football when those guys are doing that.
The
Is there sort of a different vibe kind of this week, knowing that, you spent the last 3 games on the road? Is there sort of a different vibe knowing you don't have to go through all the travel, all that?
Well, it's always nice on Friday when we finish practice and nobody has to run and get a travel suit on and hurry up and get on a bus to drive or get on a bus to go to the airport. It's a little bit more like, all right, we're going to go through our home game routine here. Obviously, their families are going to come to town, all that stuff. So it's awesome to be able to say, man, we're going to be playing here at home at Schumann Stadium on Saturday, 2 o'clock. Looks like the weather's going to be nice. So anytime you can play in an environment and at your home that should be more comfortable, and you should know that more than any other stadium that we go to, that's always a nice thing. And so to finish our preparation here Friday night with meetings here, take a bus downtown to the hotel, have a team meal together, have chapel service together, have a Friday night meeting together. It's awesome to be able to do that, and it's nice to be able to be back home again after 3 games on the road.
What kind of is like the focal point, especially for the defense in practice this week?
Oh, I think for all of us, not just defense. I think for all of us, the offense, defense, special teams, all that, man, is really just making sure once the game plan is put in place, sink your teeth into it. You got to invest not just time here in this building, but you got to invest your own time at night, making sure outside of this building, our guys are getting together. Our leaders are holding their teammates accountable. Like, hey, man, we got to get in here. It can't just be the time that we're together in the morning in the meeting or the practice. You got to get together on your own. Make sure that you really know the game plan. Because when you do that, that puts you in a confident mindset. That allows you to play fast. That allows you to play sure of yourself and what you're doing. So really, it comes down to that. Obviously, we're going to watch the 4 games that Western Michigan's played. They played really well the last 2 weeks. So it's gonna take a great game plan on our part. It's gonna take great effort. It's gonna take us coming out and executing at a high level, and I'm confident that every one of our guys in this room will get that done.
Looking at Western Michigan, what is it that they do that you like that you're confident?
The last 2 weeks, they've done a great job running the football. They had such an explosive game. Their first home game against Bethune-Cookman, they had nearly 700 yards of offense, 350 if I'm not mistaken, rushing. And then last week, they really did a great job too on the road at Marshall of establishing the run. So for us, obviously, it all starts, whether it's offensively or defensively, we got to stop the run. And we got to do a good job of getting the run game established. And obviously, we got to get back to playing high-level special teams football, which has been really a bright spot for us all 4 weeks that we've been out there. Our kickoff cover unit, just the way guys are running down the field, and our cover units in general. We got to make sure that we do that. But Western Michigan, really, too, they had an opportunity there on the road. They had a 4th down play inside the red zone there where they had an incomplete pass, but they really put themselves in a position where they had a chance there at the end to win it. And so it's going to be a team that this is their first conference game, so they're going to be excited about turning the page. And now the rest of their games for them will be all conference games. And so I'm sure they're looking towards a new season for them, a new approach, and MAC game number 1.
Here, Sam Jordan. Anything else for Coach? All right. Go ahead and just open for questions with Jackson, if you would, please.
I think the first thing is, talked a lot about with other players, about their relationship with Mike. And something he said during the press conference right before you came in was he started off not only the post game on Saturday, but the team meeting on Sunday by just telling the guys that he loved them. Like, how much does that carry over to the locker room when you hear the head coach of more than 100 players say that he loves you?
Yeah, it means a lot. The relationship that all the players have with Coach Neu is solid. That he actually cares about not only you as a player, but you as an individual. I can think back to a time when I was a freshman, I got caught doing something stupid, and Coach Neu had an easy avenue to, kick me off the team, send me somewhere else, which would probably have been, the logical thing to do. But that man cares for you on such a deeper level, allowed me a second chance, and that's why I'm still here today. So I owe a great deal to that man. I know a lot of players can say the same. He's the heartbeat of this team, and somebody that guys can rally behind for sure.
Given the fact that you kind of view yourself as like playing on a second chance,
yeah.
Does that make you more determined and more motivated?
Absolutely. Like you said, it kind of feels like I'm playing on borrowed time. The opportunity that was afforded to me, that was given to me purely out of grace, It's not something to be taken for granted. I think that shows in my effort that I bring to the game field, to the practice field, to the weight room, the consistency, just because I know that, this can be taken from you just like that. So
I know too, like the linebacker group is very close. I know the defense has struggled this year, but what have you learned, particularly from Keontae, given the fact that he's TC1?
Keontae's just a good role model. He's been like that all my entire time here. Had the opportunity to play with him for 4 years, coming in a year after him. But just a dude that does everything the right way. I'm getting the meetings 15 minutes before. He set that standard for the linebacker room. The linebacker room has always been really solid with leadership. I think we've got about guys like Brandon Martin, Clayton Cole Pierce, guys of that nature. Keontae falls right into that role. Definitely a guy that just guys can rally behind, guys that guys can look to know what to do in a certain situation. He's going to handle it the right way, and that's what you get out of Keontae Newsom for sure.
And he kind of said, kind of took me aback, but after the game on Saturday, he just felt like, in his words, that he's been a fraud this year, because he said that he's got these expectations to be the leader, and he feels like the struggles the defense are having falls on him. How are you guys as a defense kind of rallying, not only around yourselves, but around Keontae?
Keontae holds himself to a super high standard, just like, he tries to hold the rest of us. And he knows what that standard is. Like I said, it's because it's been the history of our defense. And when that's not being met, he takes that, to heart. That comes down to effort, that comes down to game planning. And it's not just Keontae, that's, falling short of that, it's the entire defense at large. So we all have to rally behind him. Obviously, he's the one leading the way, but he's going to get the ship turned around and headed the right direction. I fully believe that.
What I've heard from everyone on defense, the two biggest issues have been tackling and miscommunication. How do you feel like, especially the miscommunication, do you feel like those things shouldn't be happening 4 weeks into the season?
Absolutely. No, practice has to be cleaner. There's times, when we're a little too lenient as far as, getting game plans in, understanding, what we need to do in a certain week versus a certain team. But I think the communication has to be at an all-time high this week. Just has to be for the rest of the season. These Tuesday practices can't be taken lightly. These Wednesday practices can't be taken lightly. Effort needs to be there. Tackling needs to be there. We need to thud up, the look guys. There just needs to be an extra emphasis this week because what we're doing right now obviously isn't cutting it. So it's got to be better.
I got something else. I know that you are a part of the team Bible study. I heard from somebody that you lead it, actually. And Caden, after the game on Saturday, just before he said anything else, he kind of declared that his faith is going to bring him through this rough stretch that the team is having. How have you seen the team in general and as a whole kind of use their faith to guide them through tough times?
I mean, absolutely. There's a revolution on this team. And all praise be to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who has moved in incredible ways throughout this team, just impacting guys in a way that, we haven't felt in a while. And that's credit to a lot of older guys, you think about Trenton Hatfield bringing the Bible study to the team, but you think about just guys that, want to do things the right way and, look to their Savior as their kind of way, the truth, and the light. Caden's leaned on that, just like a lot of our guys. Because we know that, Coach Neu says it all the time, tough times don't last, tough people do. I have this tattoo on my arm, Romans 8:18, for I'm convinced that the sufferings of the present cannot be compared to the glory that is to be revealed in us. All throughout the Bible it talks about, unlikely situations, unlikely people, turning around, flipping their lives for the glory of God. I truly believe that's what God's going to do through this team this year. Obviously, not the start we want, but just the group of guys, the caliber guys, the faith of the team, and not in who we are, but who He is, that this thing can truly get turned around for the better, and it'll be glorifying to Him through that.
Yeah. I've heard from players in the past that they've kind of found their faith through this team. Was that something that you came into the program having that faith, or did you find it here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wasn't raised in the church, didn't know anything about it. Believed in AGAL, but didn't know, what avenue to take to that. Then, when I mentioned Trenton Hatfield, that's the dude that brought me in through the Bible study. And that's just been a great community outside of, what we have in here, for guys to get vulnerable with one another, grow in community and relationship with our Lord and Savior. It just allows us to just have a deeper connection with one another because, we're not only players, we're not only teammates, we're brothers in Christ. This allows us to be a whole lot closer, and then allows us to give a whole lot of new level of effort from one another, just because we know that, this is a blessing that we have, and, it's not been, earned, it's been afforded, it's been given to us, it's a blessing, so something we don't take for granted, and you see that kind of, that fire that guys play with from that Bible study. And there's been a lot of guys that have found faith here. There's been a lot of guys who grew up with it, lost it, found it again here. So it's really just a really special thing that Ball State University has. And I'm sure that's why God led me here. God led a bunch of people here for that very reason. So it's just been the most wonderful thing for sure.
Mike talked about, having a player or two get out of position on defense that can kind of create a big play. How do you as a linebacker kind of not only kind of control that every man is having their position, but just kind of lead the defense?
I think, looking back on the tape, across the multiple games that we've had, the big blow-up plays that you see, you have like 10, 11 guys doing their job. But, it's just a matter of one or two guys, not giving consistent effort, not doing their job on every play. And I'm guilty of that. Keontae's guilty of that. It's not just, the young guys in our program. But, I think complete team buy-in to doing your job has to be at an all-time high. And that's what I talked about like this week with practice. Like, the emphasis is doing your job at the best effort you can every single play, because we don't have to have these 11-play drives that result in scores. We can get off the field in 3 or 4 downs. I'm fully confident that we have the guys on the team to do that. It's just a matter of that mindset that this down is the down. I'm going to make a play, do my job, and we're going to stop them. And, we talked about confidence. That's another thing. Like, we have to believe that we're able to do such a thing. And, like, as a linebacker, like, you're supposed to, like, make people right. But at the end of the day, we all have a job. It's not, Keontae or I or anybody to put in the linebacker position or the safety position to, kind of save the play. It all comes down to every play that's on the line, and guys have to do their job to strain and make sure, that we stop them and get the ball back to our offense.
I guess, what do you see when looking at Western Michigan's offense? I know Mike said they have a pretty deep run game.
Yeah, they have a fantastic O-line. Probably one of the better ones we've seen this year. But, we played Miami, we played JMU. Those guys have good offensive linemen, so we're ready for it. Like I said, physicality, effort has to be at an all-time high. Have to strain to get off blocks. Have to strain to stay in our gap. All these things will result in success against their offensive line.
You mentioned Miami and JMU. What is it like, playing against kind of elite, high-scoring, high-flying offenses like that? How do you think that kind of helps you going forward into, like, MAC play?
I mean, it's tough. It's definitely a test. But, we gave them too many points. We gave them too many opportunities. They are good offenses for sure, but we, magnified what they were able to do just by not doing our job. So, it doesn't matter who you play week in and week out, whether it's a Power 5 team, whether it's an FCS team, you have to do your job in this game of football. You have to have, like I said, 11 guys doing their job each and every play, or else scores will be lopsided like that. And obviously that's our number one issue right now is we got to keep the points down. Our offense is doing their thing. They're moving the ball at a good rate, and we got to keep getting the ball back to our playmakers and allowing our offense to get rolling.
Mike talked to us a little bit about, when early in the game you guys go down 15-0 and then guys start kind of getting more aggressive, kind of start falling into this like cycle of not doing what they're supposed to do on each play because of that sort of frustration. How do you kind of see that manifest itself in those situations, and how do you kind of work through it?
Yeah, no, I think that gets back to what I was talking about, just the next play mentality. This play is the play that I have to do my job to make a difference. And, when you get down in those losses, like you said, that 15-7 that we were at, guys want to strain, or even when it was 22-7, guys want to strain to do what they can do to make a play. And sometimes that results in you not doing your job. You trying to go make a play by not doing your job and doing something else, which results in big plays. So, it's not anything one individual can do. It's a team effort. It's a collaborative effort, even each and every play. And at the end of the day, we just got to all do our job, every single play, and that's, what's going to result in the outcome that we desire.
Anything more with Jackson? All right, here's what we're going to do real quick. We're going to bring Cam up here for Elijah, just so you're aware. We're going to send Jackson out into the hall. He's going to do a pregame interview with SportsLink, but we're going to hold on to him. He's still here. He'll talk with you after that.
Sounds good.
Okay? Cam, come on up.
Thank you, fellas.
Thanks, Jackson.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Jackson.
What's going on, man?
What's going on?
Doing all right?
Yep.
Well, I think the first thing is just you've had this kind of breakout season so far. I know the team hasn't really had success, but before this season, you really hadn't seen the field much at Ball State. How did you kind of stay the course, and what all went into earning a starting spot this year?
Well, for me, my freshman year, I just didn't see the field. Took a redshirt year. Last year, had an injury, so I missed the whole season. And pretty much during that time, I just stayed the course. I know what I'm capable of. I didn't let setbacks mess with my mental, and I just really stayed the course. A lot of guys in the building always checked up on me, made sure I was good, kept me positive, kept me motivated, and just stayed down and grinded until I finally had my chance.
I know after Ty Robinson last year, he played in 2 games, but then missed the rest of the season. And he talked about how tough of a year last year was for him. How tough was last year for you, missing the whole year?
It was definitely hard just because I felt like, well, for one, you don't want to ever miss any games. You want to play, you're here to play. But it's also hard just because, you see things on the field that you feel like you can make a difference. Sometimes guys might lose confidence, and it can help when you're there to help them keep that confidence up. Just really knowing that there's a lot of plays on the field that I felt like I could have helped us make. So it was definitely hard not being out there.
Yeah. And are you kind of bringing that mindset of, like, I can be that guy that helps this offense make plays that maybe some other people can't just because of you have the physical ability to? Are you bringing that mindset this year too?
Yeah, well, everybody in our room is capable of making the big plays. We have a good room, very talented. But I definitely feel like I bring a lot to the team. I think I can make kind of every play. Big plays, catch it short, make people miss. Plays out of the backfield, I feel like I can definitely do that all for the team.
Yeah, and you did talk about, like, the depth of the wide receiver room. Even with, like, Justin and Ty out, the wide receiver room is still produced from guys like you and Keon. Does that just speak even more to the depth that you're talking about?
Yeah, it definitely does. From top to bottom, we have guys who, they show out every day in practice. I feel like now it's just a matter of, doing that same thing we've been doing since the spring, and just doing that on the field now on Saturdays.
Yeah. And Mike talked about how, you've only got 1 non-conference game left, and the rest is MAC play.
Yeah.
Half of the other teams in the MAC are kind of in the same situation as you guys are. So do you kind of view that as maybe even this upcoming Saturday kind of starts a new opportunity for this team?
Yeah, well, the goal from the beginning, of course, is for us to win a MAC championship. We lost a tough game versus Central Michigan. Felt like we should have won that game. But like you said, it's definitely a good opportunity. We're getting into MAC play. We felt like we've seen it all from college football. We've played really good teams. We've played teams who are going to be coming to the FBS. And so I think it's just really just time for us to lock in. And, we know what we're capable of, and we just got to go put that on the field now.
I think you were first or second in receptions. Just what's your relationship like with Samantha?
That's pretty good. As soon as he got here, we had a pretty good bond. He trusts me. He trusts really everybody in our room, but he trusts me to make those big plays, catch everything that comes my way. And I just have to start doing that more consistently now.
He usually carries himself with a lot of confidence. Do you think his confidence and everybody around him kind of just helps the team play better?
Yeah, it definitely does. When the leader of your offense feels like, we can go out there and do whatever we want, that helps us as well, because now he feels like he can put the ball out there. He trusts us to make the play, and so we feel like we can go out there and make the play and make our quarterback look good too. We had that good 2-minute drive, both of the 2-minute drives versus Central Michigan. He didn't have any hesitation. He knew that we were gonna make something happen, and he's shown that a lot throughout the season, and that's definitely good for the offense.
On the topic of confidence, I know that a big thing for Mike after Saturday's game is he just feels like the team is they need a spark in confidence. It feels like the confidence is down.
Yep.
How do you feel like you guys can get that confidence back?
It all starts with practice. Starts on Tuesday. We have to just go make plays. Don't let the ball touch the ground. Just play hard. Remember, it's all about us at the end of the day. It's not really about anybody else. We know what we can do. We're not the way we always look at it. We call it us versus us or me versus me, and I think that's the mentality we have to just keep having going forward to know that our season is in our hands.
And kind of on the topic of confidence, like how much of a difference does it make when you're on the field playing with confidence?
It definitely makes a difference because when you go out there and you're confident, you're not thinking too much. You just go out there and play kind of freely. And, you can sometimes tell, at least for me, like, first game, you're a little nervous going out there, but as you keep going, you start to play more confidence, and I feel like that's definitely helped me throughout the season so far.
You talked about Caden a little bit. How did you see his confidence, kind of whether it was affected or not affected at all by the the multiple turnovers on Saturday?
I don't think his confidence got affected really. He still sat in the pocket. He might have knew a hit was gonna come. He still put the ball where it needs to be. He trusts us no matter what. He trusts our O-line to block, pick up blocks. He trusts our receivers to get open and get separation at the top of the route. So I think his confidence is there and will always be there.
Do you think that the quarterback having as much trust in you guys as he does, do you think that allows you to do your job easier? Like you're not as worried about, him doing what he needs to do because you know that he's going to take care of it?
Yeah, it definitely makes our job easier because now we know that as long as we get separation on top of our routes and we get to the spot where we're supposed to be, then we know the ball is going to be there. And now it's just up to us to make the play.
We've seen a little bit more of Kyle Kelly get kind of infused into the offense as a skill position guy. How much work does he do with the receiver room, like in practice?
He works with us a lot just because, like you said, he he's a guy that we're kind of putting all around. So he gets a lot of work with us in the receiver room. We have a good relationship in there with him as well. Welcome him with open arms. So it's definitely been great having Kyle with us back on offense.
I'm kind of interested because everybody's talked about practice today and kind of what that looks like, that you guys need to have a good practice. What's the feeling compared to walking off the practice field with a good practice or compared to a bad practice? Like, can you tell there's a difference?
Well, during the season, you only have so many opportunities to prepare and practice before the game. And so with that said, there's not really too much room to have any bad practices. And so, when you have a good practice, you feel good about the game plan, you feel like you can go execute on Saturday. But if you don't have a perfect, well, I won't say perfect, but a really good practice, then that only leaves you with maybe a day or another day of preparation to where you have to, stack a lot of good plays in order to feel like we're where we need to be to go play good on Saturday.
Anything more for Cam? Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate Cam and
Thanks,
Jackson.